listening to Out of Pocket.
We do these things not because they are easy, but because I am hard.
I knew exactly how much I gained.
You are not going to stroke my drink.
You went from a potty mouth to a stripper.
Quotes like these and more on Out of Pocket. Enjoy the podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Out of Pocket.
Episode 5.
Oh yeah, episode 5. Well, we've been a little delayed on some of our episodes, but we're getting it out there.
We're more consistent.
Yeah, we're getting there. But today I'm joined again with Alex and Max.
Hello. It's going to be good.
Oh yeah, and we got one of the originals, Hunter.
What's up?
Back from the dead.
Back from the dead, yeah. Took him a while to get everything situated and get back on here, but we're back.
Speaking of back from the dead.
But, and as we were talking about last episode, our special guest that we have joined us today, Dr. V.
He
Hi,
goes
guys.
by Myth's mother.
Yeah. We finally got her on, everything situated, so we can talk about what we've been wanting to talk about, especially around this time of year.
Yeah, we're getting really close to Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
Halloween. Sorry.
Halloween, yeah.
Halloween.
All the spooks. But, let's see here. Do it like...
Would you like to introduce yourself, Dr. V? What you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
How you like to
talk,
do it?
talk a little about yourself.
Okay, sure. Well, my name is Aggie Vanderpool, and I teach science at Lawrence County High School, which is how I know all you guys.
Yes, sir.
And I am so pleased to be invited to be on the podcast with you today and talk a little bit about paranormal investigation as we get close to Halloween here. It's a great time to talk about ghosts and how we hunt for paranormal activity. So I think we'll have a good time this afternoon kind of talking about some of this stuff.
Yeah. I
Yeah, it's
love
really
this
exciting.
type of stuff, so I'm really happy that we got you on here to talk about it.
Well, I've been at this for a while. It's a hobby, but it's also been a passion of mine for a really long time. So, I came back to Kentucky. I'm originally from Kentucky, and I came back to Kentucky after living in Tennessee for quite a while. And we had a paranormal investigation team. I did a lot of work in Tennessee. And then when we moved to Kentucky, we just kind of decided to change everything up. So that's how our new group, Witching Hour Investigations, was kind of born. And we're just starting to literally get our boots on the ground in Kentucky. So it's a great new start for us, and it's a very busy time of year.
Yeah.
Like last night, we were out at the Fallsburg Fairplex last night, kind of doing a meet and greet, talking to people in the area, trying to get a sense of leads for areas or places that, have some history, maybe have some stories and places that we can go check out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing that you came back to your hometown after exploring all the other places and traveling.
Yeah, it was. It's been a real, very, very good homecoming. I left Hazard, Kentucky in 1983 and just moved back, 2 years ago. So I've been out of Appalachia for a while and glad to be back. And this is a very interesting place to do paranormal investigation.
Absolutely.
There's
The
some
Appalachia
history.
region, it's got most of the stories of cryptids. We were talking about it just a few episodes ago, talking about all the myth monsters and whatnot. Do you guys ever get into that exploration? Like
We've been very
Mothman or
interested. Oh yeah. Oh well. Point Pleasant, West Virginia is not that far away.
Yeah.
I'm real familiar with Mothman legends. Yeah. Of certainly, of course, there's a lot of myth and talk about Bigfoot from this area, and from other parts of the country. But there's always been a lot of, I think, interest in whether or not something like a Bigfoot creature, Sasquatch, might exist in the Appalachian Mountains, because they're so old. And then there's a lot of lesser known myths with a lot of lesser known cryptids as well. There's the Kentucky goblins. I don't know if you all have ever had a chance to watch the documentary called Hellier.
I
Um,
don't think I've
no,
ever
I'll
seen
look
it.
it up really quick.
Hellier. Okay, you'll have to check out Hellier. Now, I don't know if it's still on Netflix. It's been out for like over 2 years, but that was a paranormal investigation team that went in and got caught up into some really interesting stuff over in Hellier, Kentucky. And Hellier is a kind of a abandoned coal mine town further into eastern Kentucky. It's closer to Hazard, so it's a
Oh,
little
that
bit.
looks
It's east of Louisa, yeah,
that looks
and
really interesting.
it's remote. It's back in there, but they got caught up in a whole trail of stuff, and it was a 2-season documentary that ended up leading them all the way into Somerset, Kentucky, where there's been a tremendous amount of stories and anecdotes coming out of that central part of Kentucky called the Pennyroyal about paranormal activity. So Kentucky is just like a hot spot for paranormal activity and stories, and it's really fun to be here.
Yeah, there's all
It
kinds
makes
of
me
tales.
wonder because it's such most of the region is fairly low populated, like low population. There's just not too many people out in the Appalachian region. It's not dense at all. It makes me wonder if people just get lonely and then convince themselves that certain things are out there, or if it's just that, uh, like because there's not that many people out there, that's why those things are out there and people stumble across them.
It's definitely, interesting to think about. And that kind of gets into the whole realm of talking about if you're going to talk about um, paranormal entities, the age old question has always been, what are they?
Yeah.
What is a ghost?
Right.
And there's a lot of problems with trying to explain that, because paranormal activity seems to manifest in so many different ways. You have sound, you have light, you have visual entities, you have possibly moving objects. I mean, it's just this huge variety of things that get lumped under paranormal activity. Makes it really difficult to try to draw a definition around what exactly is a ghost. I don't think anybody in the paranormal investigation world really has good agreement on what that is. And so there's been accounts of paranormal activity pretty much all throughout human history since we've had recorded history. We're even you're
Because
heading
it's
back
just
all the way.
unexplained.
It is it's very interesting that it's unexplained. And you think about, well, okay, is this, as I think it was Alex a minute ago suggested, are these experiences that people are truly having and truly experiencing, or is this something that can be maybe
Self-manifested
interpreted?
just
Right,
because.
right. Is this a state of mind? Maybe even in some cases bordering on some sort of a mental illness kind of thing. And there's a lot of debate about that. But what
Oh
there's
man.
not a lot of debate about is that there's a ton of evidence. And now that we have so much better technology and access to technology, the mountain of evidence of unexplained phenomena just keeps on growing. There's
Yeah.
more and more videos, there's more and more recordings, there are more and more instruments that detect crazy stuff like temperature changes and changes in electromagnetic energy. And
Yeah,
it's almost like
it's
the argument
amazing.
over UFOs, right? So the
Yeah.
argument over UFOs for however many, decades, there's no such thing as UFOs. There's no such thing as UFOs until the mountain of evidence gets so overwhelming that finally the U.S. government has to come out and say, well, yeah, we have to acknowledge that there's unidentified flying objects.
Yeah, at that point they
Or
can't deny it anymore.
Something out there.
right, right. So now we have UAPs, right? So I'm guessing that at some point we may get there with paranormal activity, that the mountain of recorded evidence, and everybody these days has recording device because everybody's got a cell phone in their hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get this mountain of evidence, and at some point somebody's going to go, maybe there's something to this. Maybe we better have to look at this, right?
Speaking of the technology, the modern technology that we've got for it, you sent us lots of pictures of your equipment that you guys use for your
I did.
business. So, would you want to walk us through some of these? Let's see.
I have two
Like, for
pictures from some of
instance,
the cases that
there's
we carry
a,
around
yeah, I see the one with the tripod here.
with the
It's
tripod,
got
and
all
then
these
one of
cookies,
these
I
with a
think.
bunch of vehicles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first picture with the tripod is one of the cases that we carry around just to kind of show you that we use, and our stuff, guys, you got to remember, is really basic stuff. We are not Zach Baggins on Ghost Adventures, so we don't have the backing of the History Channel or the Travel
Yeah.
Channel, thousands
And
of
that's
dollars, into this equipment. So we use basic stuff, and that a lot of that amounts to video and audio recording. So we have large standing tripods that we put video cameras on, but we also have these little tripods, and they are useful if you're indoors and you need to set something on a table or on a shelf. So you want to film the inside of a room, and have a video camera set up on that. Or these little tripods are great because you can attach a video camera to it, and then they're light and small. They're easy enough to carry around. So you can hook
yeah,
somebody up and
yeah.
have a mobile. It's kind of like a GoPro,
Yeah.
but it's a GoPro with a high def IR camera.
Yeah, it's got
4K.
they're the like security cameras.
Yes, yes, some of those are, and then the second picture also had just some more of the video cameras in them. So we use full spectrum 4K video cameras, and most of the time we're shooting with some IR light. We try to shoot with infrared light,
Yeah.
just in case there's temperature anomaly, that you pick up and record. But the little tripod you can grab in your hand and you can run around, and yeah, my husband calls it the go ghost. So you can go
The
ghost
Go
around
Ghost.
instead of go pro. You
That's
go
pretty
ghost,
cool.
not go pro when you go ghost. And you're seeing in that picture with the tripod, you're also seeing some small flashlights, some green lights, and you're seeing handheld radios. So depending on the size of place, of a location where you are, you're not always in line of sight with people that you're investigating with. So the handheld radios are really important for keeping up with each other. And let me just pause for a second there,
Sure.
and talk about, if I can, for a minute, talk about safety,
Yeah.
because a lot
Yeah,
of
go ahead.
people, paranormal investigation is having a major surge in popularity, and has for the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years now. And so a lot of people are running around trying to do paranormal investigation. And the thing that you got to keep in mind is there are some very real and present dangers in doing this, and they're not paranormal. They're very
Yeah.
mundane. A lot of people ask me, "Aren't you afraid don't you get scared when you do this?" And I'm like, y'all, there is nothing in the paranormal world that scares me as much as humans scare me in the real world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
there's nothing out there that scares me like that.
you
Have
could have
you
people about our age getting excited and going onto a abandoned place, and that we would just run into a crackhead. or something like
Oh
that.
yeah,
Just hanging
yeah.
out in an abandoned
Well, and you
building.
also got to think that a lot of these like really like haunted places are owned by people, and you can't just go in there without
It's
like
still
asking.
property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. So good points and a couple things to really think about, especially if somebody's listening to this who might want to try some of this or get involved with it. Um, First of all, trespassing laws are serious and they're real.
Very. Hmm.
So, especially with structures, you don't want to be in an abandoned structure if you don't have permission to be in there or beyond that, because again, these are private property and
Yeah.
you can end up being arrested and literally end up, if not in jail, with a massive fine
Mm-hmm.
for trespassing on private property.
If
So,
I'm not
permission is
mistaken,
really,
yeah.
go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, there's some states that the people who own a property, if you're trespassing, so I'm pretty positive that some states allow the property owner every right to just
Oh yeah, no,
like
there are
shoot you because you
trespassing.
Oh,
are
Yeah.
you're an
the
invader.
stand your
You are
ground
a
laws.
direct threat.
Yeah, they're called stand your ground laws, and yeah, they're that. So you don't want to get into that situation. But the other thing is too is that many of the places that would be of interest are places that are old and abandoned and really run down. So in that respect, they're dangerous in general. You've got structural
Structural
issues where
integrity.
you never know if you're going to go through a floor, if you're going to have a staircase break out from underneath you, if you're going to have a wall collapse.
You
So
might
you
shake the
have to,
building enough to where the ceiling gives out.
right, right. So there's real safety issues on that side of the coin. And then the other side of the coin is that many of these sites are also very rural, which means there's no good cell phone signal in a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
places where we are. So if you encounter an emergency kinds of situation, you're going to have a really hard time getting help. And so what we highly recommend is number one, you never go alone. You just don't do that because you
No,
don't, especially if you're going out there in the middle of the night, you don't want to be running around in the middle of the night by yourself. So
because
always in teams, at least three
nobody's
people.
gonna know where you are.
That's right. You just don't know. You don't know what you're going to run into. So don't put yourself in that position. Have a team of at least three people. And it's also advisable to have at least two vehicles in case one breaks down and you're in a remote area and you need to get out of there. You need to have more than one vehicle.
Yeah.
And certainly plenty of flashlights. And it's also highly recommended that you get a tetanus shot because you never know if you're going to get, you don't want to accidentally scrape or cut yourself on a piece of old metal, something broken,
Yeah,
barbed wire,
there's plenty of
you know,
rusted metal out in this in these parts.
Oh yeah.
big time. So those are things you got to think about. So yeah, there's those handheld radios you're seeing in that picture with the tripod. Um, Now in the second
That's
picture, there's
great.
still a bunch of video cameras and lights in that one. And standing up kind of against the back of the case, there's this little black, it kind of looks like a weird little TV remote, but it's got the two little knobs on the end of it that look kind of like little
It's
ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like a super
Okay.
high sensitivity microphone, isn't it?
Yes, that's a Tascam.
Yeah.
And they are extremely high sensitivity. So it has an SD card and you turn it on and it can record for hours. And so what we usually do is leave it recording at a location when we have cameras also going at the same time because the chances are good that it might pick up something that the microphones on the cameras wouldn't. So it's extremely sensitive. And we have gotten some interesting EVPs. EVP stands for electronic voice phenomena. And so
Thank
this
you.
is stuff that you don't hear, with your ears, but when you go back and do the playback, it's there. It's on the
Yeah.
audio recording. Like, where did that come from? Oh, what? You know,
Yeah.
what,
Nobody
where
heard
did
it,
that come?
and then it's there.
No, nobody heard it. So, story about an EVP, the very first one that we ever recorded, and it's always exciting when you record your very first one for the first
Oh
time.
yeah.
You know, it's fun to hear other people's, but when you get your own for the first time, it's like, oh, that's great. So we back in, oh gosh, I want to say, I think it was summer of 2019 because it was pre-COVID. We were in central Kentucky doing some work, and we went to a cemetery because we kind of specialize in cemeteries and graveyards. That's kind of our area of specialty. So we went to
That makes sense.
a cemetery that's just south of Louisville, Kentucky. It's actually south of Elizabethtown. And it's a cemetery. We can probably even still research it online at this point, but it's a family cemetery. And it's in a very remote, off a county route, in a very remote, I mean, literally, you have to go almost back through a pasture of a guy's farm to get to this cemetery. But the family name is Casey, so it's a Casey family cemetery. And it has a reputation online. It's called Hell's Gate. And it's an interesting cemetery. So it's very remote, and you get back, and there's a small gravel parking lot. And then the cemetery is laid out. There's kind of this long rectangular cemetery. And it's, I don't know, maybe 100 feet long. It's an old cemetery. There's a lot of old graves in it. So it's
Okay.
this rectangle. But at the far end of the rectangle, like maybe not quite a football field length away, far end of the rectangle, there's the oldest part of the cemetery, and there's a whole series of these very old trees that are growing in a ring, in a circle, and there are graves that are laid out in the back of the cemetery in a circle. And that's
So,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not a common way to organize a cemetery. You know, most cemeteries are organized in very orderly rows, you know. These graves are set in a circle, and these are old graves. These are 1800s. So we wanted to go check out this cemetery. And what you usually do, and we highly recommend this also, is whatever area you're going to investigate, you do what we call ground truthing, which means you go first during the day. And that way you can search the whole site. You can find out where all your hazards are. You can make decisions about where you want to set up your cameras so you get the best angles and the best views. It's a lot easier to get your setup
That's
in
a much
mind.
better idea.
Yeah, before you're trying to do it at 11:30 at night, you can't see what you're doing, right?
Mhm.
So you go during the day, and it's a common misconception from people that there's no paranormal activity during the day. That's why everybody goes out and does this at night. That is actually not true. There's a lot of paranormal activity that occurs during the day. It's just that, people are usually really busy doing other things, and they don't, notice it or think about it or pay much attention to
Nobody's
it
Yeah, it
during
just
the
kind
nobody's
day.
of goes by without notice.
Right.
I gotta finish
And
this first.
All right. He hasn't been here this whole
I
time.
know. Leave me alone. I'll start this podcast.
Oh, okay.
so,
No.
so we go out and we
Go ahead.
ground truth through the day. So we took off to the Casey Cemetery, and we hop out of the car, and we always use the Tascam to do our ground truth recording. So we're recording the day and the time that we're there and the location where we are, the weather conditions, temperature, air temperature. We're taking a bunch of just basic data, and we record it on the Tascam just so we can write it down later. We've got a ready recording of it. And so we hop out of the car, and I'm like, okay, so it's, July 20 such and such, 2019. And we're at the Casey Family Cemetery in Elizabethtown, and we're getting ready to do an investigation. And my husband jumps out of the car on the other side, and he goes, also known as Hell's Gate, because we're not going to use that footage. So he's just goofing around. Well, we didn't think anything about it. We just went on and did our thing, did our ground truthing. And we got back to the hotel that night and started doing playback on the audio. And as soon as he said, Hell, or also known as Hell's Gate, the minute he said that, you can clearly hear a voice, almost at a whisper, but it's a voice in the background go, close.
Whoa.
And it was like, who said that? We were
Okay.
the only people there. There was nobody else there.
Wow.
I mean, it was deserted, and that you clearly hear a voice go, close. So that was the
And
first
again, this
EVP.
happened at broad daylight too.
Yes,
This was
broad
the
daylight.
daytime.
It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, on the Tascam. So the Tascam is super sensitive and really, really good at catching stuff that your other eyes might miss. You definitely wouldn't hear with your regular ear, with your regular hearing.
Oh yeah. There was
So
one.
that's some. Go ahead.
Oh, there was one recording thing that it was like it wasn't meant for like ghost hunting or anything, but like it was just a voice recorder or something, and it would people kept complaining that it was picking up stuff that nobody else could hear, and they discontinued it because they would like pick up stuff that no one else would hear and like different voices and all that, so they discontinued it.
Because it was too sensitive. It was too high quality.
Yeah, because it wasn't meant for ghosts. It was just like a voice recorder, and they were like, "Oh, what's this voice?"
And
and,
it was
then
fucking
yeah, it
weird.
was yeah.
Oh,
Wow, I
Yeah.
bet if the ghost people could get their hands on that.
There's this one dude on YouTube
Yeah.
I watch every now and
Old
then that
model.
uses it, and it's insane.
Oh, uses the
I like-
Tascam? Oh, the other recorder.
Well, he uses both of them, but they're it's just the amount of stuff you hear on them is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be depending on where you are. It's
Yeah.
pretty interesting. And the video camera microphones will catch anything that's really close by, but they're just not sensitive to catch up anything like in a distance.
Yeah.
So, and
Will
what
you-
they will tell you is if you want to have if you want to like say that you actually got something, if you want to have any credibility to what you're doing, it's highly recommended that you have evidence on more than one device.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's like,
what's it called? There's like a principle, where it talks about like you have to solidify something that you have by like 3 or more sources.
yeah.
We should
So
all
you need
get we should all get
something.
GoPros and go ghost hunting one day.
Oh, that would be
Right.
amazing.
Okay. Oh
I
yeah.
want to be
Oh
like
yeah.
the
Let's.
Arabs though. Like I don't want to run from it. I want to go like chase it down if we see it.
Oh, you want to be like mountain monsters?
That's my favorite thing to see.
Now,
Oh yeah.
Vanderpool.
What's your thought on mountain monsters?
Who?
Oh,
The-
mine?
Yeah, Dr. V.
Oh, I have not watched
show.
Mountain Monsters.
Oh,
Okay.
I've not
probably
watched
like
Mountain
it's a
I'll
little
have to
wild.
check it out.
One got mind controlled by a Bigfoot.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, and
It's
one
bad,
passed out
but-
because of Mothman.
Oh, well, yeah, Mothman. Mothman hadn't been seen for like, 50 years, right? So,
Yeah.
I think they fake it, but I don't care. I love
Oh
it.
yeah, but it's still fun to watch.
they're great stories.
Sorry, Max. You were asking her something.
Yeah. I got a question that I'm sure everybody's been wondering. in
Oh,
all the
okay.
years. Have you ever found a body or a crackhead? In your
Never
family?
found one.
Actually, yeah.
What's the
We-
kind of creepiest thing that you've come across that is not paranormal but living?
Yeah, it's beyond the
Paranormal.
audio and the video. It's just you found something completely unrelated, and it was just horrible.
Oh, well, we've been lucky that we have not come across any human remains. Again, because we spend most of our time in cemeteries, graveyards. It's not
You're under the dirt.
completely unexpected. We've seen a lot of graves that were damaged by vandalism. We've seen a lot of graves that are very old that have sunken way down into the ground. Depending on how much water and how the soil is where they were buried. Sometimes graves can sink, and that's pretty creepy looking. There is a cemetery outside of Ironton called the Newton Cemetery that is in really, really bad shape. And we stumbled across it literally looking at a different cemetery. There's a really big cemetery in Ironton called the Woodland Cemetery. It's also called the City of the Dead. And it has like several thousand graves
Wow.
in the City of the Dead. But
Yeah, that's
it's a very formal, gated cemetery. And the
Yeah.
thing, the rule about cemeteries and graveyards, guys, is okay, cemetery is a burial place that is not connected to the property of a church. So the formal definition for graveyard is it's a burial site that is connected to a church.
I
All
thought that
right,
it was
so
just the same terminology.
Yeah,
Like it
I
was the
thought so
same
as
thing.
well.
yeah, it's graveyard if it's connected to the church. Cemetery if it's kind of standalone.
Yeah. All right.
So the the rule is if a cemetery or a graveyard is gated and if they have hours posted, you cannot be on site in that graveyard or cemetery outside of those hours without being considered to be trespassing. So if it's not gated or especially if there are no hours posted, then you would have an argument, let's say. I don't know if you would always necessarily be successful, but if you were questioned by authorities, out there at 4 o'clock in the morning, what you're doing, if you were questioned, then you would have an argument that there were no posted hours. So they can't charge you with trespassing kind of thing.
Yeah,
So that's
I
kind of the
feel it'd be
rules.
really hard to win that though, because it's still a
Yeah.
property, and if
It
the
is.
person that owns that property specifically has the issue, then yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lost cause.
Well, it's always good to have permission, but
Yeah.
this cemetery is on the outside of the gate in Ironton, outside of the Woodland Cemetery. And we had gone around the back gate. We were trying to kind of just scope out the Woodland Cemetery to see if it was something that we might want to try to approach people about permission for. And we stumbled across the road that comes up to the back gate of the Woodland Cemetery. It was like late at night, it's about 1:30 in the morning, and there's vegetation grown up everywhere. And I'm kind of looking off the road, and right off the road, literally right off the pavement, I saw what looked like a
Mhm.
headstone. And I'm like, you need to stop the car.
Oh, wow.
And so we stopped the car and we got out, and there literally are headstones in grass and weeds up to your shoulders that
Wow.
are almost on the road. And we found a sign. There's a historical marker because a lot of these graves are old. I mean, we're talking Civil War
Oh,
era
geez.
graves.
And they're completely
So yeah,
abandoned.
it's in terrible condition. And there's a historical marker. So I started doing the research to look it up. And it turns out that this cemetery sits on a pretty steep hill. It's on pretty steep grade. And they've had all kinds of trouble because when there's a major um, storm system that comes through, and when there's a whole lot of water that comes through down at the bottom of the ravine,
It
it
washes it
tends
out
to wash
completely.
out graves. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they find human remains down there all the
Yeah.
time and have no idea whose there are. So it's not impossible to come across something really macabre, like
Yeah.
that. But we've been lucky that we haven't come across anything that we've come across some stuff in the woods that is kind of interesting as to whether people are just playing around or we've seen some stuff, some like Blair Witch kind of looking stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we've seen where obviously there's this one section of woods that's close by where I live, and we were just hiking through the trail. This was last year, and there were a bunch of boards that were piled up around the bottoms of trees, like teepee style. They'd been very carefully placed, so they formed almost like these teepees around the base of the trees. And we're like hiking. It's a pretty remote trail around. And I'm kind of like, well, that's kind of weird. That's odd. Why would somebody do that? Are they marking what are they? Are they marking trail? Are they marking, like
I would
hunting?
just hope that somebody got bored and decided that was a fun pastime.
We would hope so. But one of the guys who was with us on that particular hike said that's something that apparently is associated with people that hunt Bigfoot, that's like one of the marker signs.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know because I haven't done a lot of research with Bigfoot, but I'm just like, well, that's okay. Okay, that's different. Have come across strange carvings in trees,
Yeah.
um, parts of the woods, but not anything that we would have to call law enforcement about and say, hey, we've come across some stuff y'all need to get out here and look at. So fortunately, no, we have not found a dead body
Well, that's a plus.
Good. Good.
other than ones that have been buried.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Precisely. Right. So
Man,
y'all want
you're
to talk
doing
about the first picture that I sent?
Oh,
Oh,
the
sure.
cemetery? Yeah.
Yeah, the cemetery.
Exciting.
You sound very happy
Okay.
about that. What in the world?
No, we were pretty excited about this picture, but you know, 99% of what happens out there in paranormal activity is stuff that can be debunked. There's
Yeah.
usually an explanation. If you really work at it and look hard at it, it's going to be something that has been moved by the wind. It's going to be something that has
Mhm.
reflected off of something shiny and caused a light anomaly. It's some weird angle of the sun, or if you're in a building, old houses make noises, they have drafts, doors open and close with pressure changes. I mean, there's can be 100 explanations,
You're
mundane
telling me
explanations.
you're telling me my $5 faulty camera, all the footage that I've gotten with that, all all the little black spots on my footage for like
All of
40
those
minutes.
dust
That's not a
particles that are supposedly ghost.
all the streaks that I keep seeing for like the 3 hours of footage that I've got. That's not an
Well, I
anomaly.
don't know. I don't want to burst your bubble. I'd take a look at it. We see, but it's a lot of it can be explained by mundane means. Orbs,
Yeah.
orbs is a huge
Yeah.
case in point, and I'll talk about orbs in a minute if you want to. But
Sure.
this picture that I sent you guys is from September of last year, and it was taken in a local cemetery here in Carter County, right down the road from my house. It's a family cemetery, and yes, we did have permission to be in there. And we were in there. This picture was
Sure.
taken about 4 o'clock in the morning. And
Okay.
so what you see in this picture is, first of all, that's my husband James, and he is walking past a headstone, looking the other direction. And we are following him, but we're a good distance back. So what you can see to the right side of that picture, especially down in the right corner, is that there are two flashlight fields, because
Yeah.
there were two of us that were walking the same direction he's walking, but we were carrying flashlights. And you can clearly see that there are two flashlight fields in that
Okay.
picture.
So that's not part of what
No,
was
no,
going on here.
those are flashlights. So, but for comparison's sake, those are flashlights. Those are what flashlights look like. Okay. So then in
Yeah.
the upper right hand corner, there's this weird little light, crazy looking little light anomaly going on up there. That's a lightning bug. Okay. But you can see that it's in motion because of the fact that the light is in motion. That's a lightning bug. So this picture was not taken with a video camera. It was taken with a still camera, and it was taken with flash. And um, the guy who took the flash picture is not in the frame. You don't see him, but he had the flash camera. It's a high definition flash camera. It's a Nikon. It's a nice little camera. But what is baffling to us about this picture is that the headstone that my husband is walking past, there are no lights on that headstone. It does not have any solar lights on it at all.
Yeah, where this thing is positioned,
Yeah,
there's nothing projecting light there
Yeah.
at all.
There's
no,
nothing there.
there's no light. And he has a flashlight in his hand, but it's turned off. he was walking toward a video camera that was up on a tripod. So he has the we had enough
Yeah.
light with the flashlight field, so where he just had his flashlight off. So he's not shining a flashlight on the headstone. And none of us who were facing that direction and walking that direction, none of us saw this happen. We had no idea this had happened until we pulled up the camera footage.
That's incredible.
This is one that's really got us stumped because we don't have, right now, we don't have a way to debunk this. At first you would think, oh, well, his hand jerked or moved when he took the picture, and that's why it's the light looks the way it does, like it's streaming. But if you look carefully, all the rest of that picture, including the hand over on the right, it's all in focus. So if his hand had jerked when he took the picture, the whole frame would have been blurred.
It would have just been an unusable picture.
Yeah. Everything
And on
would
top
have
of
been.
that, it's so much brighter than everything else.
Yeah, you can clearly
Yeah.
and you can clearly see the light where the flash went off as well.
Right.
The difference between them.
Yeah.
My favorite part about this whole picture, though, is you're just like, all right, send my husband first. If anything happens, that's on him. We're good to go. We'll just stay back here.
That's right. That's right.
It's
You
okay.
go. You go, James. You go. Yeah. So that one was that's an anomaly that we don't have a good explanation for. We really don't right now. One may come. We have connections with the Louisville Ghost Hunter Society, and there's some people there that have been doing this for a long time and are really, really knowledgeable. And we need to go ahead and send this picture off and see what their take on it.
I think it shows a good level of professionality from you guys that you actively try to debunk your own captures.
Yeah.
Because some people, I'm sure, will go out there and just like I was making a joke about the faulty camera, the $5 footage. Some people will get stuff like that and they'll just get excited and tell everybody they're wrong. This right here. This picture is like 1,000 ghosts collapsing in on the same spot. But I like that you guys. Go ahead. Sorry.
What?
Wait. What?
Hey,
I thought
cut
so.
out.
Oh,
Are you still there,
Oh, what happened?
Dr. B? Is that you?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. It went like wonky for a second.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You're back. It's
So
fine.
yeah, I was gonna say that's the problem with orbs, guys. You hear people that do this all the time, and especially people that do it at an amateur level that are just doing it for fun, hobby, like we are. We're hobbyists. They talk about orbs. Everybody gets excited over orbs. The problem with orbs is that orbs are probably one of the most easily explained phenomenon by mundane explanation. With cameras, almost anything can create the effect of an orb. If you have pollen in the air, if you have dust particles in the
There's so many
air,
different conditions that could just create a light spot.
anything can create orbs. Yeah, especially if you're in an old structure, because old structures are full of dust anyway. So if you're in an old structure and you're taking interior pictures and you're seeing orbs all over the place, yeah,
It's most likely dust.
it's probably, I hate to tell folks that, but it's probably dust. And a lot of times bugs, especially if you're videoing and bugs in motion, bugs will look like orbs, will look like light anomaly. There's a couple of exceptions where sometimes if you have an unidentified object, we'll call it that way, a round, circular, unidentified object. If your objects if it's all moving the same direction, that's an indication that something is being carried on an air current, so it's very likely a particle of some kind, dust, pollen. But if it comes into frame and it changes direction and seems to have like control over how it's moving and not moving with air, then you have to really start to dial down and say, okay, are we dealing with a bug, or are we dealing with something that might be who knows what, in terms of energy.
Yeah.
So orbs are only interesting really in truth if they change direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it rules out a lot of other explanations, a lot of simpler
Yes.
explanations.
Yeah. Yeah.
If speaking of like investigate, if you had to pick one place that you would your dream investigation spot, what would it be?
Probably Salem, Massachusetts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
That's
yep.
fair.
I'd love to go to Salem. I mean, I know everybody wants to do Waverly,
See,
'cause there's
that's
been a
me.
lot. Yeah.
I would love to go and do
Waverly
that
would be
before it
cool.
like gets so bad off that you can't anymore.
Well, I'll tell you, some of these really, it's one of the reasons that we chose to specialize in cemeteries and graveyards. Some of these places that are really well known for spiritual activity, where they do a lot of paranormal investigation, have gotten so expensive that it's almost
Oh, yeah.
impossible to do. So Waverly is $1,000 a night to investigate.
Oh,
It's a grand.
geez,
It's a
that's an
grand
investment.
Lord.
for one
That's an
night.
investment.
And you got to have, you cannot have less than 10 people. You have to have a team of 10 people. And
Wow.
so and Brushy Mountain Prison in Tennessee is the same way. And Brushy Mountain doesn't even have the same level of activity as Waverly. I called one of the places that we wanted to try to go was up in West Virginia. There's a place called Lake Shawnee, and it has an
Mhm.
abandoned amusement park. They only have a couple of
Oh, that would
old
be cool.
abandoned roads left, but yeah, we'd love to go to do that site. But I got in touch with them to try to talk about setting up permission to get in there, and we were willing to even pay a little bit because some of these sites, like we've been to the Ross Theater in Cynthiana, we've been some other places where you actually have to pay a little bit to get in. But now people have kind of jumped on the bandwagon, and Lake Shawnee wanted $100 a person.
Wow.
And I'm just like, you had to have a
Why is
team
it
of
so
5 people.
expensive?
It's
Yeah,
just the supply and demand.
Yeah.
They've
yeah,
got to charge more to, because if it stayed cheap, they would have so many people that it wouldn't be worth the money for anybody that would end up being there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
and
I guess that's
private
true.
landowners have figured out that they can make money on old abandoned sites because it's a big thing right now.
They
It's
just turn it into a tourist attraction.
That's right.
I mean, they
That's
could.
exactly what.
I was thinking, like,
Like y'all have probably heard about the Bob Mackey's site
Mhm.
in Kentucky,
I
the
think so.
nightclub that supposedly had the what was it, gate to hell or something in
Yeah.
the floor, this paranormal activity. Now they still allow paranormal teams to come in, but they filled in that hole, and apparently the activity has gone way down, and they still charge an arm and a leg.
Wow.
So
bro, dig that hole back out.
we avoid some of these places that are real touristy. We'd rather go to the places where not many people have been,
Yeah,
like the Sensabaugh
it'd be
Tunnel.
great to be the first person to investigate like a really like active spot.
Yeah. Yes, it would be.
It's like mining for gold and finding
Yeah,
the
pretty
biggest
much.
chunk in an area. You want to
Right?
be that guy.
What was the nightclub called?
Bob Mackey's.
Bob Mackey's. Mhm.
Uh,
Bob
Okay.
Mackey's.
There,
Yeah,
I'm-
I can't remember what they called the hole in the ground. It was in the back of the
wasn't
club.
there an
It's like a
episode
video
on
game.
with Zach that he did an episode on that?
I think they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been famous for a long time.
Yeah.
for activity.
And there's there's a few like places that are like houses that people go investigate because they're so like the Sally House.
Yes. Yeah. I've heard about that.
And there was another one. It was about the axe murder house. I remember the name of it.
A lot of the houses where there have been really traumatic stuff, like the Amityville Horror House, the house where The Exorcist, supposedly the movie The Exorcist, the actual case that was based on, that house is still standing. A lot of those places now have been completely put off limits to people to come in because, unfortunately, if you get famous like that, if those sites aren't like police 24/7, there's a lot of vandalism that comes in. And, we see that in cemeteries, like the Casey family cemetery. There was a lot of damage that was done in that cemetery that was just vandalism, just pure vandalism.
That's really unfortunate that
It
people
is.
find the need to do that kind of stuff once they know a place is popular.
And a lot of landowners will shut those sites down and gate them off and, put up the no trespassing and that whole thing because they don't want the liability of people coming in there and possibly getting hurt and then suing them.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I mean,
Yeah.
it would be their fault, technically, under all
Yeah.
of the legal hoopla.
So that's become a little more problematic. It's why it's a really good idea to have permission when you go, because people do get kind of irate about that. But yeah, those are kind of some of the challenges. I probably should mention the necrometer. I sent you a picture of the necrometer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
The necrometer is an app, all right, and I don't know if it's for iPhone or not because I have a Droid, so I got it through the Google Play Store. It is a paid app. You do have to pay for it. We started testing that out because we had a spirit box. Now, if you guys have watched any of the ghost shows, you've seen people use spirit boxes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
there's a video game that is based on spirit hunting. Have you ever heard of Phasmophobia?
Yes.
I play
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Probably have
Me and
lots
Hunter
of
need to get
people
on and
bring
play
that up to
that.
you.
My daughter plays that. That's Myth. That's why it says Miss Mother, by the way, because she's a
Oh
gamer. So she plays
Okay,
that.
that's great.
So yeah, there's spirit box. So spirit boxes are literally scanners for radio channels, and generally they're designed. You can choose between either AM or FM to scan. And so what the spirit box does is it will not stop on any frequency. You can set your time period, so like every 20 seconds, it's going to scan across your radio channels, any of your local radio channels that it can pick up. It's going to continuously in a loop scan those channels, either FM or AM. And the thought is that
Yeah.
if something is trying to communicate audio wise, if there is a frequency, an FM or AM radio frequency that the entity can tap into, can match the energy of, that it can come through or it can communicate on those frequencies. So by asking the questions, then you listen for a response coming through on the spirit box, right? Well, there was a lot of criticism of the use of that in the early years, and rightfully so, because if you're sitting around asking the spirit box questions, it's very easy to kind of interpret the answers the way that you want them to be interpreted instead of,
Yes, it's a
randomly.
placebo effect, right? It would be a placebo. You're wanting to believe it, and so you
Yeah.
turn it into
You're
what you want to
introducing
hear.
bias. Yeah, there you go. Those good old science terms, right? You're introducing bias.
Yes.
So one of the things that the documentary Hellier did, the one I spoke about earlier that was filmed in Kentucky, is they introduced a method called the Estes session.
Oh yeah, the
And-
Estes method. I love it.
Okay, all right. So what do you know about the Estes method? Tell me about that.
I've seen I watch YouTube a lot. I watch a lot of ghost stuff like that, and the one episode I watched, it had the Estes method. The first time I ever heard about it, and so you take the spirit box, of course, and you plug a pair of noise canceling headphones into it, and so one person gets that and a blindfold, and they blindfold themselves and put the headphones on, and they constantly are hearing the spirit box change frequencies, radios, all that, and the people around them ask questions, and then after they get done asking questions, they get them out, and then they listen back. Or
Right.
no, it's they answer the questions as they're being asked. That's what it is.
Well, essentially what's happening is if you've got noise canceling headphones on and you've got blindfolds on, you cannot hear or see what questions are being asked.
Yeah.
So that removes the bias completely. And so what happens is the person who's basically got the blindfold and the headphones on, if you're under, you are just spitting out what you hear.
You become the spirit
You know,
box.
you become the spirit box. You just spit it out, and you have disconnected bias by not being able to see or hear the questions. You just spit out the responses that come across the spirit box.
Yeah.
So that made the documentary Hellier made that method really popular.
Yeah.
And we used that method and kind of there was a couple of rounds where we had some kind of interesting results with it. But at the same time, there's a much more expensive piece of equipment than a spirit box. It's called an Ovilus.
Yeah, that's what
Now,
I
if
was
you've
about to
watched-
say.
Yeah. Okay. So you've seen Zach Baggins' crew use an Ovilus, right?
Mhm.
So what does the Ovilus do?
It's pretty much what a spirit box is, except that it brings up the word instead of it like being over audio. It shows up the word.
Yes. It prints it out. So there's no confusion about what the word is. Because honestly, when you're trying to do that Estes method, or if you're even just trying to listen to a spirit box, sometimes it's really hard to make out what the words are. So the Ovilus would speak the word, but it would also print the word out. So there was no confusion about what the word was.
So you don't have to guess what it said.
That's right. Right. So the most recent version of the Ovilus, I think, was listing it at about $3,500.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously not in our ballpark for a budget. So I came across this app called the Necrometer. That's the picture that I sent you guys. And the app is supposedly an app that will do the same thing as the Spirit Box. You can set it to text or speech, or you can go right in the middle, so you can have both. So what you do is you treat it like a spirit box. You carry it with you and you turn it on and you ask it questions. Sometimes you don't even have to ask it questions. It goes off all on its own. And it will say the word and print the word. So we've had some honestly pretty interesting results with the Necrometer. So we had a spirit box. It broke. We were trying to decide whether or not to buy another spirit box. We started using the Necrometer, and we got some interesting stuff. We were in July this summer. We were over in the Bethel Cemetery, also in Carter County, really late at night, and there'd been a headstone that had been damaged again by vandalism, and so my husband picked it up and got it set back up on its base. And we were talking about the name because the name was interesting to us. The name was Malcolm Marks on the headstone. And so we talked about that for a minute or two. Thought, oh, that's an interesting name. We were looking at it. It was from the early 1900s. So then we stepped away and started to watch another part of the cemetery. And I mean, like a minute and a half later, the Necrometer popped up the word Marks.
Wow.
Now it's interesting because this app is not connected to your microphone.
Yeah.
You do not allow any permissions. So it has no permissions to your photos, to your microphone, to anything. So it begs the question, out of its supposed vocabulary of 60,000 words, why would it pull out the word Marks?
Out of everything, yeah.
It's really particular.
That was different. And then, of course, there's the incident that happened Friday morning at school with the Necrometer. Okay. So the mass media class is making a little Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Right. And they asked me if I would do a little clip in the movie as an official paranormal investigator. And I said, sure, I'll be glad to do that. So they came to do the interview, and it was, let me see, Molly Compton was doing the interview, Annie Fraser and Kara, oh, I can't remember Kara's last name. Kara was manning the camera. And they all came in, there were three of them, and we were, I had the cases open, kind of had the equipment out, and I was playing the little part. It was like there's a little script, and they're supposed to be interviewing the paranormal investigator about what they would do in the school, given that there was a problem. And so I'm going through the motions of asking Molly, who's one of the students involved in this little movie, the kinds of questions that an investigator would ask. And the final question I asked her, I said, okay, and now I have a very serious question for you. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, well, have there been any injuries associated with these disturbances? Had there been any injuries like scratches or bruises or hair pulling or pinching or anything like that? And before she could say anything, the necrometer piped up in the background and said, nope.
Oh,
And she was like, yeah, you can just see, and it's going to be, you guys will see it. They're going to put it up on, they're in editing now, but they're going to put it up on YouTube. At that point, the necrometer was
love to
going
see
off.
that.
And there were so, it was like, there were a few words that were just garbage, but most of it was really interesting. And it was kind of funny. And Molly's eyes are like about as big around as saucers at this point. And both of the girls are like, they don't know what to do. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, what do we
It
do?
was supposed to be this serious.
We were joking.
Oh, it said all kinds of stuff. It said, ghost here. It said, I see you. I can't remember what else, but there was all this was coming through. And I was cracking up because I told her, I said, when y'all put this up on YouTube, people are going to think that we staged all of this. And
Yeah.
none of it is staged. None of it is staged.
That's good.
So
They
it
were
was
just
pretty,
as freaked out as the people that are going to be watching.
Yeah.
it was great.
Didn't
We're
even
not
have to
getting that
act.
stage yet.
No.
So that
That's-
was
that's
fun.
amazing.
But
Bro,
yeah,
the
we've
app
had
is $10.
Oh
The
yeah,
app
it is
is
on the
what?
App
I
Store.
need
by
to
the way.
get that junk.
Yeah,
It
the
is
app is
on Apple.
good. We decided we're going to work with it a little bit longer rather than buy another spirit box. We may at some point in the future break down and buy another spirit box, but
Yeah.
for now we're going to work with the necrometer because there's been some other instances where we've had some success with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, most of it's gibberish. The bulk of it that comes across is just garbage, but every now and then it's like, oh, okay.
I'm glad I
Yeah, it
haven't been
starts making
completely
sense.
worthless because
Yeah.
$10 for an app is.
Yeah. So that's all the fun stuff. October's a great month, guys.
Oh,
Great
yeah.
month.
Yeah. Does October have more activity, would you say? Because that's when people like obviously we're having this podcast because it's close to
Yeah.
that time where people get excited with
Be back.
ghosts and all the spooky stuff. Does it actually correlate with your guys' work?
Well, I can say that we don't get anywhere near as many calls for this kinds of stuff around Easter.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
I,
But the
everybody's focused on, ghosts right now, but we're out when the weather allows. We try to get out. It doesn't matter what month of the year for us. We're interested. And one of the questions has always been, are there certain seasons, are there certain environmental conditions that contribute to perhaps seeing, hearing, experiencing paranormal
So
phenomena?
would you say there's any more activity during the time when people get excited for it?
We have experienced probably more activity in the summer and fall months than we have in winter and early spring. But again, the coldest that we've been out is literally around 45 degrees at night, because once you get below 45 degrees, the cameras don't work very well.
Yeah.
It
Oh, okay.
siphons. Yeah, I
So
mean,
it's
the
just outside
cameras are,
factors that cause you to not
yeah,
be able to even look
right.
for them.
And when it's super cold, you also drain battery life really fast
Yeah.
on your electronics. And it's just miserable to be out there. You know, if you're out there for hours at a time, it gets rough when it's down below 45. So that's definitely a part of it. I'll also say that, you know, this time of the year is famous for this kinds of stuff because historically, what was celebrated this time of year, you know, this has always been the time of year that's been associated with reconnecting with the ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, in all the ancient cultures, Celtic, Norse cultures, there were always this time of year, which is the ending of the season, the movement from, you know, the growing and living season into the season of the year where things are quiet, as we prepare for winter. So, that turn of the season, that turn of the year, has always been kind of associated with more spiritual activity. So again, our ancestors, our ancestral cultures, particularly for this area, the Scots, the Irish, the Norse, all the people that settled this area, they celebrated major festivals that were focused on remembrance of the ancestors this time of year. And then, of course, those became a lot of that became adapted as the, you know, mundane Halloween.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, they
you know,
dumbed it down a little bit.
yeah, there may be a reason that you know our ancestors felt that this was the time of year to be more focused on that. You know, who knows, right? But it's kind of like it's the last gasp to be outside and enjoy yourself before the winter sets in and we're all
Oh
stuck
yeah.
indoors, right?
Right.
Right.
And then you're stuck binging whatever's left of all the shows that you've put off.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love to try to get out sometime and try to do an investigation.
Okay.
That's
Well,
something I've always wanted to do.
we would like to take a group of people with us from time to time. We have a lot of people that ask to go, and we do take people with us. But so far, the people that we've taken with us are people who are over 18,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
because
there's
it
less
is
liability there.
there is it's very late at night most of the time when we're out doing stuff, and it's, as I said, it's very remote. Um, Not that we couldn't do a daytime kind of adventure thing, but I would have to check into what I would need to do to get clearance through the school to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who it
Yeah,
was. I heard that you were trying to get permission for a field trip.
I would like very much to do that. I've been lucky so far. I've gotten to do my first field trip ever came off this fall, and I think it was a good field trip. We went out and did the fossil hunt
Oh
where we
yeah.
did the fossil
It was
hunt
great.
Yeah,
in Huntsville.
Even though
that
I
was
fell
Right.
down
we
multiple
were there.
times.
We were there with Mr. Hinkle, but I was
Right.
wondering how you guys got permission for that because there was no event there where we were at. It was just the side of a highway,
Right.
but it was really
Um,
fun.
Oh yeah, no, it was
it
great.
was Yeah, it was a blast. I loved it. And I think it was because it was just the opportunity for the educational piece of that
Yeah.
we never could have done in the classroom. I mean, yeah, you can bring in fossils in a classroom and show fossils, but it's so much
But
more.
actually getting out and collecting them
Yeah,
yourself.
and get your own. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we were really lucky that administration let us do that. Now, whether or not they would let us do an actual hunt with students, I don't know. We'd probably even have to have parents on site and have parental permission. But I have
Yeah,
heard,
I'm sure there's
and y'all,
some parents that would have issues with it.
oh, well, yeah, yeah, there's going to be some of that. I have heard, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that Louisa East, I think it's Louisa East, has had some activity in the elementary school. Did anybody
I I can't
go?
correct you because this is the first I've heard of
Yeah,
it.
that's the first I've heard of it.
Okay. I'll have to try to dig out who it was that actually was talking about that. And also, the high school, there's a little bit of a history with the high school. You all know that there's been one student who died in the high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Was
you know
that?
that
Or
that
do we not know?
there was a student, and I don't have the exact date on it, but it's been quite a while ago. It's been like more than a decade ago. But Ms. Huff gave me the whole story on this, and apparently there was an ROTC program at the high school at that time then, and there was an ROTC inspection, and they were all in the gym for the ROTC inspection. And one of the students, they had them stand at attention for a long period of time while they were doing the inspection. And as a result of that, one of the students, apparently there was a circulatory problem, and they had a heart attack and died in the gym
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
during the school day. Yeah, and it's been a long time ago, but it did happen at the high school.
Yeah.
And then there's a kind of a tangent to that. There's a report, and I don't know how credible it is because I don't have the full details on this, but there's a report that there was a person who was working on when they did the big extension on the school and added I don't know when they added the new wings to the school, but that someone was killed during construction when they added the wings onto the school.
But it's just a
So,
rumor.
yeah, I don't have, and there may be some credibility to it, but I haven't had time to check it out and see,
Yeah.
do the research to find out that
Yeah,
statement.
that's
So,
all. That's all really interesting. That's new.
yeah. So it might not be a bad thing to do a little investigation at the high school
I mean,
for fun.
especially
I wanna do
because
that.
the whole like science factor behind it as well. Like you could,
Okay.
it's an educational thing.
Well, it is. I mean, you're looking at all kinds of environmental factors. So you're looking
Yeah.
at time of day, you're looking at temperature, you're looking at if there's changes in electromagnetic radiation kinds of stuff, if there's, energy fluctuations. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about there with the
There's a lot of
I'm
science
sure
aspect.
there's some way to get it
things
approved.
happening.
There probably is.
If we go on a ghost hunt at the school, I won't be like terrified. Like I won't be able to sleep. For the
Never
next
be able to
couple
go back to
weeks
that school
with
again.
this ghost. Yeah, like I want to be scared to sleep. Like, I'm gonna have my light on and I'm gonna have my phone light on just in case.
Just in
You don't
case.
want to go ghost hunter? You don't want to go ghost?
I do want to
You'll
go
be-
hunt ghosts. I just want to be like terrified afterwards.
Yeah,
Well,
like I said, there's nothing as scary in the paranormal world as there is in the actual mundane world.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Humans are so much scarier.
Yes. Yes, they are.
I've run out of questions.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you knew about the video game.
Oh
I was
yeah.
positive you would.
I mean, I have a
know
dumb
about
question.
that.
Speaking of the, oh yeah, go ahead, Hunter.
The cursed items exist like in Phasmophobia. Like
Well, there
Items
are,
tied to.
there are investigators who say that they do.
Yeah. Like the Annabelle
The
doll.
big case in point is Annabelle. Yeah,
Yeah.
Annabelle would be the big case in point, and of course the actual Annabelle doll looks absolutely nothing like the Annabelle doll.
yeah,
from the movie.
no, it's
It's a
put
real
away
big
in that museum, ain't it? The
It is the Ed and Lorraine.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I should know their last names because they're like the most famous pair of paranormal investigators like
Yeah.
ever. The Warrens.
Yeah, the
Ed and
Warren
Lorraine
Museum.
But that museum, apparently there's been a lot of issues with that. That was, first of all, my understanding on the history of that was that was their personal archive and it was never intended to really be a museum.
Yeah.
And when they both passed away, the son took it over and tried to kind of turn it into a tourist attraction. And he had all kinds of problems with the town in Connecticut where it's located. And so I don't know what the status is, but they had a lot of artifacts in their possession, and the Annabelle doll is probably the most famous of those.
Yeah.
But there's there are investigators who claim that there are objects that really can affect people if they have them in their possessions. I don't know. I don't know about that. But
Yeah, I don't know if I ever believe those ones either. But it would be cool.
yeah.
Oh, we've let's see, what's our run time?
It's probably about time to try to wrap it up.
Yeah. I'm really glad I'm really glad that you got on here with us. It's been really
Yeah.
fun.
Well, thank y'all so much. I feel bad. I feel like I've hogged the whole
Oh no, this
conversation.
is the whole point of it. We
Nah,
just
you
wanted to hear about all
carried
your
it.
yeah.
This has been
This
has
is
been
probably
for
our
you.
best podcast.
Absolutely.
We just wanted to hear about all your stories and all that.
I didn't even
Oh,
talk much
we're-
because I was interested in it.
Yeah.
I was,
just sitting here
half the time I
listening.
was wondering if you were here.
I was just like hard focusing on it because I was interested.
His mouth
I
was
have
gaping
returned.
open. Just well, we're wrapping up now, so you
Oh,
can
my
be
God.
part of the outro.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's been a pleasure, Vanderpool. Thank you for being on here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Again.
for having me, guys.
We'd love to try to get you on, maybe more if you're up to it.
Oh, sure. If we come across something interesting, I'll let you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll
Awesome.
get you on here. We can talk about it and stuff. That'd be great.
Good
I'll make
deal.
sure to find a way to put all the pictures up.
Oh yeah.
Just saying.
Anything anybody want to say before we wrap it up?
I'll make sure to, let's see. Do you want us to pull up pictures of the card at the end here, right here? Your business card?
Yeah, with especially the backside that has the telephone numbers on it,
Oh yeah,
because
we'll
we
put
are
that in.
always looking for places to go,
Yeah.
and
Drop these and
happy
put
to
them
talk
at the
to
end
people
here.
about it.
Yeah, so if anybody listening wants to have an investigation done near them or just give them a call, they'll come out and they'll do some stuff. Let you know.
Yeah. And again, Dr. V, do not worry about talking more than any of us.
Oh,
We
yeah.
wanted to get you on here so you could tell your stories.
Oh, yeah.
We don't
It was
have we don't
great.
we're not able to tell your stories for you, so it's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
It was
thank you.
very interesting. I love talking about stuff like this.
Yeah, this has
Well,
been
thanks.
fun.
Thanks so much.
All right.